Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. Welcome to another edition of Insights webinar series by eHealth Africa. I would be your moderator for today. My name is Fatima Hawadi. I work for eHealth Africa. So this is the second session of the Road to ILF 2026 webinar series. Our theme for today is Beyond Access, leveraging digital solutions to advance the health and rights of women and girls. While digital transformation from telemedicine to AI offers unprecedented opportunities to bridge these systemic gaps in, let's say, healthcare, education, economic opportunities across Africa, technology alone is not enough. We can only achieve sustainable impact when digital solutions are intentionally designed to address the unique barriers as women that we face today, such as digital literacy, affordability, online safety. We have entrenched social norms that actually limit us and our access to digital solutions. So our goal today is to look beyond technology and mobilize stakeholders to drive innovations into advanced equity and dignity. This crucial conversation serves as a direct pipeline to the fourth edition of the Insights Learning Forum, ILF 2026, this July, co-convened by eHealth Africa Group, the eHealth Africa Health Tech Summit, the Dala Group, and the Pharma Access. So to align with ILF's core theme of insights, partnerships, inclusion, interoperability, and investment, these actionable ideas and recommendations that will be generated today with this vast panelist that we have would actually give us the opportunity that we need to actually have a strategic agenda, multiple sector partnership to maintain a forum. Thank you for joining us as we collaborate to translate dialogue into scalable system-wide impact. So meet our panelists for today. Our panelists for today are in no particular order, but they are an epitome of knowledge and experience when it comes to technology and women in technology. We have Ms. Mary Edora, we have Dr. Charles Usay, and Ms. Rhoda Robinson. So let me tell you about Mary Edora. She is a seasoned digital innovations expert, a media executive, the current chief of staff and head of strategy at Bella Niger, Africa's leading tech driver. As a Harvard Business School alumna, Mary specializes in leveraging new media technology, drive digital transformation across the entire continent. She's successfully led the high-impact campaigns for global giants, including Google, Unilever, and MultiChoice, translating complex digital trends into actionable business strategies. Please make welcome for Mary Edora.
Thank you so much, Fatima. Appreciate that.
Thanks, Mary. Good to have you. Welcome back. Our next panelist is Dr. Charles, the Country Director of Plan International. So for over 2 decades, he has distinguished experience in civil society and international development. He is deeply committed to a single mission, advancing the rights of girls so they can lead, learn, decide, and thrive. As a strategic thinker, the systems change advocate, Dr. Charles has dedicated his career into transforming development outcomes. His extensive portfolio includes impactful leadership roles with partner organizations such as Christian Aid, UNICEF, and ActionAid. You're most welcome, Dr. Charles.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here to join our esteemed colleagues for this conversation. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And our final panelist is Mrs. Rhoda Robinson, the Executive Director of Haiti Health Initiative. She actually is a leader in her own right when it comes to vulnerable populations, especially particularly around women and young people. She is an accomplished social development professional and a passionate advocate for social justice. Rhoda brings over 16 years of experience to this table. She specializes in designing and implementing high-impact interventions across key development sectors, including maternal and reproductive health, gender equality, financial inclusion for women, and digital innovations in health and social development. Hello, Mrs. Zoda.
Hi, Fatima. Thank you so much.
Thank you. So without further ado, let's get right to it, right? So I would want to actually, before we move on, would want to acknowledge the presence of our eHealth Africa's Director of Partnerships and Programs, Ms. Ota Ahigbe. Thank you very much, ma'am, for joining us.
Thank you, Fatima. Good afternoon, everyone, and it's such a pleasure to have you here. It's going to be a very interesting conversation. We have, just like Fatima has introduced, an esteemed panelist, an esteemed panel with a world of experience, and it is going to actually be a very insightful conversation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. So the opening question for all my panelists today is, how can digital solutions move beyond improving access to services and contribute meaningfully to the advancing health, well-being, and rights of women and girls across Africa? I would want to start with Dr. Charles. What are your thoughts around this, please?
Thank you very much, Fatima. I think I'll be quick to put a disclaimer here that when we gather like this, recently I've been particularly withdrawn from public conversations like this because I think there's enough conversation in Nigeria to take us to the next place, but we're still not moving forward. So there's something holding us back. The reason why I joined this is because I know eHealth. I've been part of this series when it started, and it's a space where we'll speak from our heart. And anybody who wants any Harvard-style presentation, you can just go to Google, type this question, you will get enough answers. Information is available, and I'm sure Mary will help us understand how we can use technology to get information. What I'm going to be speaking is just the reality of some of the girls and women I work with in very remote areas who will never have the opportunity to come to a platform like this. And when you ask the question, how can digital solutions move beyond improving access to services and contributing to meaningfully advance the health and dignity of women and girls? I would ask, what is blocking it? What is actually the roadblock there? Why are women and girls not enjoying, the access, that already presents before us? Why are they not enjoying it? And there are a couple of things we have observed, from our engagement with young people, especially young women. I just came back from a community that we work with in Adamawa State. And I had conversations with young girls in an extreme border community, In fact, the community shares border with Cameroon. You walk across and you're in Cameroon, you walk back here in Nigeria. It's a porous border open, That's how extreme this is. It's a couple of hours from the city center in Yola. And I met a lot of young people there, ambitious, thriving, young people working really hard, young women. They were sitting in a group discussing how they can take technology to the next level, particularly for how they can use it to access health. One question that came was, what would be the repercussion? This was the words they used, repercussion, which means, will there be punishment for using this or using technology to access, affordable healthcare? And what occurred to me was, why would they be thinking of repercussions and punishment? Why? It's because the way our society is structured, it almost assumes that nothing is free of charge. And that especially those who are lower in the pyramid, whenever you get access that somehow should lead to an improvement in your lifestyle, you must be paying for it one way or the other. Either you're paying in actual cash, or you're paying with your dignity, or you're paying with your, with access to your information and data that can never be recovered. It's not possible for life to become so good that I can access services without suffering from it. So there's a whole question around distrust. And that distrust for technology, and access to services is what I call emotional inertia. In physics, for many of us who are science students here, there's what we call inertia in physics, which is the reluctance of a body to go into motion when it is already stationary, or the reluctance of that body to come to motion, to come to stationary point when it is already in motion. I translate that into our emotional ways. Why would somebody not want to connect with something? Well, what is holding that person back? It's emotional inertia, which means that there is something the person is struggling with. And that is what many young people struggle with. They've lost trust. How am I sure that I will not be shamed, arrested, disgraced? Why? Because they've seen it happen. They've seen how women take advantage of opportunities that technology, digital solutions present. And what has happened? They've been shamed. They've been exposed. They've been ridiculed. They've been taken for granted. They've been exploited. And many women, even in remote communities, are losing trust on how I should engage in, with digital solutions. So for me, that's the biggest issue, is trust. How do we build trust back? Because that trust will now enable more women and girls to connect more confidently and access the services, just like every other person or some women, in more advanced cities will do. And then when they cross that inertia of trust and the trust is built back, trust is reinforced, how do we ensure that digital solutions serve my purpose, not the purpose of those who have created it? Does it serve my purpose as a woman who needs something? Or is it serving the purpose of those who have created solutions because there is an agenda for them? Now, those are two worlds at par with each other, each of them looking for what they want. As far as digital solutions do not really address how it connects to my needs and when I need it, at the point I need it, it is just one more solution out there for anybody to take and exploit. So those are the two key things I will talk about. For me, anything we do regarding digital solutions, particularly for women and girls, given the vulnerability that lies with this subgroup of people, we must build trust and we must strengthen the relevance of that solution to the appropriate needs. There's always a concept that we know what women want, we know what girls want, but it's only an assumption. We make too much assumptions, and that assumption is part of the problems why we create the solutions, and it does not satisfy the need of those women. Until today, this is 2026. Just yesterday, I still see big companies claiming they are empowering women and they are providing sewing machines and grinding machines. What is wrong with us in this country? This is 2026, for goodness sake. So if we still have that kind of concept where empowerment means sewing machine and grinding machine for women and motorbikes, and barbing salon kits for men, we have a problem. Because then that is the way we think about digital solutions, and that is how we extend it to people who need it. And that's why it's a dead end. So I'll stop there, and I'm sure my colleagues will add some more to that.
Thank you so much, Dr. Charles. I have a follow-up question to how that would actually play out, but we're going now to Mrs. Rhoda, please. What are your thoughts around this?
Okay, thank you so much. It's always wonderful having Dr. Charles on a panel because he speaks almost everything that is already in my mind, right? And I as he said, it's when you're looking at digital technology and you're looking at a particular set or a particular population, you have to look at it in terms of what is the need you're trying to fill with regards to these particular people. The way technology works in the urban center is completely different from how it would work in a rural community or a displaced persons camp. So you have to be very, very particular about why you're developing that technology and what service it's trying to improve. So you cannot view technology without understanding the people it's meant for. And as Dr. Charles said, you have to ensure that the needs of the women and girls are paramount in the design of that technology. Now, the question about what else digital technology can do in improving access to services or moving beyond access to service is facilitating that access or making it easier for the provision of access to service. I'll give an example. In 2000, I think it's 2014 to 2015, around that period, Hasey had designed a technology-based sexual assault reporting platform called Salvas. So basically, the problem was the second victimization of survivors of violence when they have to keep reporting the incidents over and over again, and when their data keeps getting lost from either the health facility to the counseling to the police to justice system and all that. So the system was designed specifically to connect the service providers. What went wrong? The problem was we knew what we wanted to solve. Like this, we do not want these women to have to relive that trauma over and over again. But those different service providers also had their own gaps. They didn't have the knowledge to operate such technology. They didn't have the infrastructure to develop that technology. So we had a standalone technology that was not connected to appropriate infrastructure. So if we are looking at moving digital technology from improving access, we need to be able to build systems or build infrastructure that is able to address those specific gaps that make access and the viability of those solutions reachable for those women and the women and children in those communities. So that's one of the things I would say, that we should not look at it as one single solution. If we're saying, oh, the newest technology that we want to develop is, let's say, a digital platform that makes it easier for you to book your hospital or your doctor's appointment. If you use primary healthcare facilities, even if you have a smartphone, what is the guarantee that that primary healthcare facility is on that platform, that you can actually access it? So you've built a solution that is not connecting them to their needs. It is responding to their needs, but they don't have that connection to it. So it's on its own. You've just wasted resources. So we need to start thinking about what's available and how we can connect those services to the people that need it the most. Another thing I would say is that technology is not the same for everybody. The use of technology is not the same for everybody. And if you would build a high-end digital solution for someone in a rural village, it's going to fall flat. They might not have the interest. It might take too much mental resources from them. And I have seen cases where people just drop the smartphone and carry what's it called? This very strong
Touchlight.
phones that yes, those are that they have touchlight, radio, vibration, and everything in one. And they are fine with that. It gets them to do whatever it is that. So we need to be conscious of who we are building our technology for as well. Technology doesn't have to always come with the bells and whistles and the bright lights and everything. It has to respond to what is currently on. So it's not just about improving access. It's about responding to those needs and bridging the existing gap that is preventing women and girls from accessing those services. So I'll stop there as well.
Thank you so much. Because I've been just frantically writing, because, the essence of having data to actually make an informed decision, gathering the information, have a human-centered design approach to all our interventions is actually the way forward. Ms. Mary, the floor is all
Thank you
yours.
so much, Fatima. And thank you to Dr. Charles and Dr. Ruda. Those are some very, very key points. I will take it from the angle of media and digital platforms. And Dr. Charles and Dr. Ruda have actually shed slight light on what I'm going to say. Sometimes these two words, awareness and access, often are held hand in hand, and then we treat it as the finish line. So when we do digital health campaigns, it's like how much access, how many people were able to sign up on such and such platform. The truth is that you can put information in front of someone, though that doesn't mean that it will land or to change anything. What I've seen in the work that we do is that there's a distance between someone hearing a message and someone actually believing that it applies to their lives, especially when it comes to women. So that's the real gap that digital solutions have to close, and not just access. I was telling Fatima that I was jet lagged. I was just in Panama for the Social and Behavior Change Communication Summit in Panama. And I led a panel on driving social impact, trust, the trust element. And that's really what this session is about. You can put service, you can put piece of information in front of someone. It may not land. And I'll give an example. So last year we had this campaign called Stop HPV for Her, and it was focused on raising awareness for women and girls in terms of HPV, the link between cervical cancer and HPV, etc. So what we found out during the campaign, interestingly, not at the end, was that you women and girls can know about the HPV vaccine and they may still not get it. Maybe because of stigma, maybe because someone that they trust hasn't ever explained it as something that's needed for them. Another example is our Harmony Her Power campaign. So it was about women's economic power. And you can find that some women would have the mobile money app on their phones or all the banking apps basically on their phones, but they still don't feel like they have a real say over their money. So while access and awareness is there, it still didn't get them through the door. So when I think about moving beyond access, I think it comes down to three main things for me. The first one, of course, is agency, whether she actually feels like she can act, and not just that the option technically exists, which is what Dr. Rhoda was saying in terms of you can create a wonderful app for women and then you take it to the rural areas and they cannot even use it. The second one is trust, Dr. Charles mentioned, whether that information is coming from a voice that they believe in. There are so many sad situations currently in the world, in Nigeria, in each of our communities. And then everybody's just saying something. There's information overload. There are so many medical practitioners, public health experts that are putting out content there, here and there. In between all of that, there's misinformation. There is also some sort of stigma that some people, it might even be in the tone of voice in which they give out their information. Over time, what we've seen is that there's so much information, not a lot of people to trust. So when it comes to delivering messages about access, who is the person that's actually bringing the information or delivering the information to people? And then the third one for me is relevance. Whether that solution or the solution that has been designed was designed around the various sectors of women that we want to approach or that we want to alleviate their issues, or it was just handed to them, okay, we've done this is it, take it and use it. Technology solves for reach because reach is really easy to count in my space. When you're doing campaigns and we say, oh, we reached 1 billion people, and I'll still use one of our campaigns. We did reach 1 billion people. But when you look at the amount of people that moved from pre-campaign to after campaign in terms of knowledge of HPV vaccines, it wasn't much, because the truth is people already knew about vaccines. But what really moved was people's intent to take the vaccine. An example I'll give was one interesting comment that we had under one of our posts where one woman was saying, oh, she had heard about the vaccine and she wasn't going to take her daughter initially, but now she's going to schedule the appointment. So that is a real measure of what is actually moving, not just reach and impressions. And that's where platforms like ours earn our place in these conversations. We're not just distributing information at the end of the process. We're already inside the conversations. What are women actually looking for? What access do they need? What are the barriers? What are the real unfiltered conversations that we can have with the women that we're trying to reach, and what is safe, normal, and possible for them? So that's where I think access turns into something real.
Absolutely. Well said. Thank you so much. So, Dr. Charles, coming back to you, I said I was going to come back with a follow-up. So
Yeah.
how do you think, from the story with these ladies, at the border town, how do you think we can gain their trust? when it comes to digital innovation, designed and deployed for them. And we ensure that they go beyond just downloading it or just using it. Yeah.
So I think we will begin with where the problem starts, and that's the issue of trust. And when I say trust, trust in this instance is in all its entirety, right? Let's start with the basic issue of governance in Nigeria. One of the biggest issues we have right now in Nigeria is that trust deficit. I don't know what local government you're from, or for as many people listening to us on this call, just think about your local government, think about your state. And the only question I have for you is that you trust your government. You trust your governor? Do you trust your local government representative? Do you trust your senator? That's how a society breaks down trust. That's how a society breaks down trust. So when we don't trust the very basic people who are responsible for our welfare, how do we trust somebody who is interested in business making money? Because when we talk about digital access, it's not free. There's no free meal when it comes to digital access. There's no free meal. I tell you the truth. Everybody who has deployed one digital solution is because they want to make money. But of course, they want to make money riding on the back of providing a service for you. So, of course, social good. And it is at the intersection of the desire to do social good and to make money that these women and girls are caught in that intersection. And so that's why there needs to be some level of transparency and trust. And one way to rebuild this trust is to build safeguards. Safeguards for how information is used, safeguards for the level of integrity in terms of that. The truth about it is that Nigeria deals with a complex problem where when it comes to accessing health services, particularly for women, most women would prefer that it is done confidentially. That is why some women don't go to the hospital. And that's why some women will drive all the way. So a friend of mine was telling me of his clinic he has in Lekki. It's another organization. I don't just want to mention it because I didn't ask for his permission to mention it. But they have a clinic. They have clinics across Lagos. But they found out that their clinic in Lekki gives them more income than any other clinic in Lagos. And they were trying to find out why. And they ran some customer surveys and found out that customers confirmed, particularly women, 90% of their customers are women. And of the 90% who are women, 90% of those women confirmed that because their clinic in Lekki provides them more assurance of confidentiality. So there are women who will drive all the way from wherever, which part of Lagos, they will drive all the way to Lekki. Because, and these are advanced women, these are rich women, powerful women. They too are scared of confidentiality for their health data, not to talk of helpless women. That's how practical it is. They will drive across Lagos on the 3rd Mainland Bridge to go to Lekki to go and access health service because they trust the confidentiality. And how do they trust it? They build safeguards around how the information is used, which means that you can't access it from a third party. Now, and we know why. A lot of women who are dealing with health issues for no fault of theirs, if it comes to public, they're ashamed. They're ashamed for whatever it is. It is the reality of what we deal with in Nigeria. Even for men. How many men have you ever heard? That's why we keep praying for women in churches and in mosques for the fruit of the womb. We don't pray for increased sperm count for men because we think that when it comes to health problem, it is women. So women are always having this fear of being exposed. One way of building this trust is to build safeguards. Safeguard around how you access, safeguard around how you get service, safeguards around, even the options available for them to use. Because that is the least we could do. Because there are so many things behind the scenes we cannot control. And I'm sure Mary can talk about it. That's why, even as we're having this conversation now on digital health, I know that my Facebook is going to be flooded with related issues. I did not tell Facebook about that, but the algorithm will pick it. Until today, we know that that algorithm exists on common issues. my friend chats over a bottle of vodka, and my Facebook is flooded with different kinds of vodka across the world and different cocktails, you know. So those kind of safeguards are so complex that we must come down to just the basics: protection, dignity, you know, safety, and inclusion for women. Let women have options that suit their needs, their particular needs. One, two, women must have confidence that this information would not get out to even their brother or their sister, not to talk of their husbands and their spouses, right? And then women must have an opportunity to express themselves in a confidential manner. These things contribute significantly to building trust and improving, you know, the experience for women and girls to enjoy digital access as far as their health, you know, is concerned. And then finally, there's a whole concept around affordability. Women must, it must mean, it must be in a way that it's affordable for the common person, you know, to access. Because again, if you look at the economic stratification and the ladder, women are mostly at the bottom of the pyramid in terms of access to income, financial capabilities. So if we build digital solutions that is elitist or that comes with several layers of complexity to access, you know, which drains people's resources, then there are women who will prefer, you know, not to just engage at all. That is why we still have people still drinking that tree they call dogoyaro when they have malaria. Many of you will know it is a particular tree herb that people plug, boil for several hours and drink it when they have malaria because they can't afford basic malaria treatment. Because when you want to have basic malaria treatment, you first have to do a test. It costs money. The treatment costs money. Then time spent accessing this. If you remove all of these barriers in healthcare access, we talk about the delays, you know, in accessing healthcare. But that is physical delays, right? We talk about delay from the home, delay, you know, taking permission from your husband, that we call it delay from home, you know, all of that, delay, you know, to access, and then delay at health facility. Those things also exist digitally. What are the delays women will experience and which cost money if they need to access? Those complexities actually matter. Some of us use healthcare. So let me break it down. The last thing I'll say. Some of us who have a job, we have what we call health insurance, right? And our health insurance supposes that once you're registered, you fall sick, you go to the hospital. Let's be very honest, all of us here who use that, how easy is it to access? Many times you end up at the hospital and you have to keep calling your health broker. This permission is needed. And many times, many of us, because of stress, we just pay out of pocket and go home and have a good night's sleep, even if you are health, even if you have insurance. So all of that is what we're trying to beat. Those are the things we're trying to leapfrog when we talk about digital access. So when we leapfrog only to arrive at a position where it becomes even more complex and scary for an average woman, then they would rather not engage. And then people wonder, oh, it's available online. Just use this code and that code. Why are you not accessing it? Because the barriers are still there, even if it's digital. They present themselves in different ways. So in summary, building trust requires more than just convincing people. In fact, there's evidence, scientific evidence, that when you simply just tell people what to do, it backfires. Because people have that innate agency just to go against what you've told them to do. Well, especially when you don't provide options. Instead, if you look at some of the most transformational processes that have led to a population to adopt a particular lifestyle, behavior, or process, it's because they were presented, one, with assurance and trust, then with options, a menu. It's always important that you give people options to choose. Even if they have to choose within a specific limit, there's some level of agency that at least I still chose. Even if you give them two options, they still have the confidence that at least I chose. But sometimes the access available does not give options. It's very prescriptive. And then it doesn't inspire confidence at all. So if we must build digital solutions that will address the needs of women and girls, ultimately, we should be thinking first around the options, the menu, all of that will help build trust, and then affordability. And affordability, please, will mean people who are literally at the bottom of the pyramid. And of course, if we go by our First Lady's statements, it means people who like fry akara, or people who, people who do petty businesses by the roadside. You can only imagine how much money they make. So yeah, those are the kind of people we talk about. So really, really poor people who have barely anything left to feed and to take care of themselves. If our solutions do not satisfy their needs, then we are missing out a whole population. Thank you.
I really appreciate it. This is really eye-opening. And, we are not alone. We have the government, we have civil societies, we have development partners. How do we all work together to ensure this is, the what success means when it comes to, having women and children and young girls having complete access to digital solutions? Dr. Charles, can you hear me?
Yes. Say that again.
I said, okay, we are not alone in this space, right?
Yeah.
From the consumers to the policymakers, the government, the development partners, and the civil society organizations. Like, how do we all come together and ensure that this woman and this young woman, have this access that we so desire?
It's to work together. It's to work together. I've been an advocate for collaboration. Everywhere I've worked, I've been a country director for almost 14 years now in 2 different big international NGOs in Nigeria. And my team know me. One of my first mandates is, colleagues, we must collaborate rather than compete. And that mindset means that for whatever action we want to take, we first ask ourselves, who else is out there? What are they doing? What do they bring to the table? What can we add? In fact, I've been able to coach my team. When there is a need to take action, I ask them, if we do not do this thing that you want us to do, who will miss us? Which means that there are so many people doing so many things, but we don't talk to each other. And for me, the solution there is ask, who else is doing what? When I went to this community, this is what I do. When I travel to any community, one of the first things I do is to go around and say, who else is doing any work here? Any program, I don't care what the program is. What program? Which organization? Which government agency? And like this community I just told you in Adamawa State, I met with immigrations. I had a conversation with them. I met with the local police. I had conversation with them. I met the vigilante. All of that is just understanding the ecosystem. How is that area structured? Who is doing what? How can we leverage? How can we build? Because there are certain things we will not do. There are certain things government will not do. There are certain things an organization like us will not do. There are certain things private sector like Mary and her team will not do. Me and Rhoda will belong to the same sector. So the question is, how do we come together and negotiate and talk about the best part of and exchange it? We must exchange it for something. So what can I give you so that you bring this level of technology? What do I give so that you improve this level of safeguard? For instance, we are a very strong organization when it comes to safeguarding. I'm surprised that many private sector organizations still today do not understand the concept of safeguarding, and many of them do not want to learn. Because as far as they are concerned, they are providing social good for people who desperately need it. And because of that, these people don't have dignity. We want to help them. They will take it. They don't. Why do we start talking about dignity? That's why we still have private sector people who go into typical communities, provide whatever service, take pictures of young children and post online. And tomorrow, what you have just done is that you have excited a group of pedophiles, kidnappers, and you have just exposed those children to all kinds of harm, digitally and in every form. For us in Plan, we can't do that because our protocols are different. But now, am I going to build digital solutions? No. I will work with an organization like Bella Nigeria and say, what do we do? We can help improve your digital programs to have safeguards on how to protect children and girls and women, but you can provide the solution. And together we deliver it with conversation from the government, maybe putting more stringent protection measures and all of that. It is an ecosystem. I will end by this story, just very short story, because I don't just make this kind of analysis when I'm in typical communities in Nigeria. I just came back from a very long trip in Europe, and I passed through the UK, and I spent time with a couple of my friends. One of them worked for a local government in the UK. Their role is supporting the local government to identify girls, especially who are vulnerable, do not have parents, do not have a home, and they immediately pick them and take them to a foster home, which is paid for by the government but managed by this NGO. It is run on a digital system. Some people are responsible behind the scenes for making this system without anybody seeing each other. And she told me that she's worked for this agency for almost 4 years. She has never met one staff from the local government because everything is done digitally. But then she works for an agency who she has never met her chief executive because everything is done digitally. And the way they build the safeguards is that you don't know who is doing what because the safeguards are so strong that you cannot compromise the integrity and the personality of some of the people doing some of the work behind the scenes. It's an amazing ecosystem. And I'm asking myself, this is just across the world. This is where some of our leaders go and do shopping. So it's either when they go to the UK, they just go to Oxford Street and buy shoes and bags and come back. There are technology systems that work, very easy systems that work. How can't we just replicate them? So for me, that is my point. My argument is an ecosystem. If anything we do, we think we are the best, the only ones to go in and do that work, it's fool's paradise. We can only take us where we want to get to if we build an ecosystem. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Dr. Charles. Thank you. I see you're very passionate about this. We appreciate you. Definitely collaboration instead of competing is the answer. So I am throwing another question towards Hasey. I know you have worked extensively on adolescent health, gender equity. How can these digital platforms be better leveraged to expand, accurate information, services, and support these adolescent girls and young women?
Okay, thank you. So before I answer this question, I just want to just add to what Dr. Charles has said because really, when you've been in the space long enough, you tend to see how disconnected everyone is from each other. Like, people are doing the work. You can see the changes, but who exactly are these people? Where are they? How can we relate to each other? How can we work together? Dr. Charles and I always say that we're only seeing ourselves in panels and on conferences, and then so literally there are these spaces that bring you together, but outside of these spaces, how do you connect to each other? And just to add another strategy that I think it's very, very important and is very lacking in a lot of development organizations, especially the ones that work at community level, is them writing and publishing about the work that they do. A lot of times people are doing good work. They are using strategies and methodologies that could change systems and are scalable and on a large scale that are going to create large impact and long-lasting sustainable impact. But you find they are the only ones that know about it. Platforms for them to share this information are limited. The skill to actually put together what they've done into a shareable, comprehensive learning material, such as how you have your grade papers, your policy briefs and all. A lot of organizations do not have the skill. So most times the work just stays where it is. It does not have an opportunity to go beyond the borders of where it is currently impacting, unless, of course, they have an opportunity to attend a conference or attend a meeting or are given a platform to share their work on platforms such as this. So you find that we need to be able to write about what we are doing. So even if we cannot meet you in person, we can read about your work. We can find where we connect before we even start the physical interaction. Let's know about what you're doing. And it's such an important aspect of knowledge sharing that is currently missing within the Nigerian social space, because not only would it help individuals and organizations to promote their work, it builds the body of knowledge that exists for programs and current situation within Nigeria, which is something that has always been a problem. Data has always been a problem in Nigeria, like real data. I'm not talking about like 5 years ago census, 10 years ago census, or things like that. I'm talking about real on-the-ground data that happens immediately. You have organizations that collect real-time data from their programs in the different fields. You have programs that are designed to monitor the disbursement of services, the registration of participants and beneficiaries. How do we transfer this data to an open space where people can access it and use that knowledge to adapt their own programming to improve them as well? So that's one of the things that that I think it's very important when building and improving our ecosystem so that we can better contribute to each other as social development partners. Now, back to the question you actually asked me. Now, how do we,
Okay.
what was the question? So how do we leverage digital technology to actually improve? I think one of the things we need to know is what are the issues that digital technology is currently solving? What are the gaps in it actually solving that issue? And then how do we fix it? In today's society, we have a lot of young people in the digital space. Like that's an entire community that a lot of us are not well versed in. We have TikTok, we have Snapchat, we have Instagram. These ones are the ones I know as an old soldier. I am very sure there are a lot of other platforms. There are the Discords that exist out there that young people connect to, that we, as the current repository of knowledge or of resources, are not tapped into, are not able to walk around or maneuver. These platforms are where young people get information from. These platforms are where they interact with each other. These platforms are where they learn. And we need to be able to design our digital interventions to leverage on these platforms using knowledge and experience of the young people themselves. A way we do this in Haiti is that our programs have to pass a vibe check by the young people themselves. So we have a girls advisory board that cross-checks what we do when we are talking about working for girls. The language we use in our communication, the platform that we use, even the way we construct our messaging has to speak to them directly. So we are the ones that are learning. We are the ones taking advice. We are the ones writing the scripts of what is going out, but they are the ones directing. So this is a gap that currently exists. A lot is like, let me give this example. When we were younger, nobody my age wanted to watch NTA news. I do not know a single person that watched NTA news consistently. But you will see our parents watching NTA news, reading newspapers, and you will wonder what in the world is inside these things. And they tell you that all the knowledge and information that you need is in there. And it was true at that point. The knowledge that you needed, the information, current affairs, new discoveries, they were on the news, they were in the newspapers. But we did not access it because that was not the platform that we were comfortable using. Luckily for us, the news became digital. So we could now better access digital technology. We are looking at another generation of people who do not touch news. Like these platforms are completely distant from them. They are not interested in what is happening in Gaza. They're not interested in what's happening but in the Strait of Hormuz. That's not their current problem. What they are looking at is what's trending on social media. So if you cannot trend your message, if you cannot design messages that can go viral by the young people themselves, or things that they are able to take up and drive their interest in, you will find that a lot of the solutions that you are designing that should work theoretically would miss the mark, because the people that they have been designed for, even if they have been designed to fit the exact problem, they cannot absorb that information. right? So we need to always be conscious of that aspect, that when we're designing our programs, when we're designing digital technology that is speaking to a particular gap, that it speaks directly to the people themselves and is able to fit that gap. So another instance I can say is, I know some of us would have been, because I'm online like almost 6 hours a day trying to follow up on some things. And there's this new Olodo uprising that has been coming up online, right? So it's things like that that we have to be conscious about. How do we leverage such discussion to push the information and the message that you're trying to get? How do you turn it into service that young people are going to be interested in? I was talking to a colleague and we were saying, oh, most of the time, young people are interested in more, how do I put it, booty shaking on TikTok and all that. You can link that to sexual and reproductive health. The more you shake your booty, the more you are liable to get HIV. Like these are things that you can just think and then push forward,
Yeah,
right?
resonates. Yeah.
Like so we can't keep thinking that the way we absorb knowledge is the way they should absorb knowledge or they should use knowledge as well. We were lucky enough to be and the generation that transitioned from traditional into digital. So I kind of see we have the best of both worlds for both because we are able to blend easily in that space. But then we now have to be conscious of the fact that that digital space, that technology that we've been used to, is also changing. We're in the space of AI. That AI controls the way people think, the way people write, the way people construct their engagements on social media. How do we use that to solve existing problems and to ensure that young people themselves are in the space that they need to be? I'll stop here so we can move forward.
Thanks so much. So on that note, I definitely have to invite Mary, and then let's talk about these content creators, right? And the media organizations, public health actors, and how they can actually collaborate to make this more effective. So what are your thoughts on that?
Very, very interesting discussions from Rhoda and Dr. Oh my God, did you leave? Yes. Very, very
Yeah,
interesting
Dr. Charles.
conversation. Dr. Charles, very interesting. Two key things which would tie into what I'm about to say that they both mentioned. One, Dr. Charles talks about collaboration. And the second one, Rhoda spoke about where exactly are you housing this social impact work that you're doing and how are you disseminating the information? A lot of times what I've seen is media is the last point of action when it comes to social impact campaigns or projects, or let's say you do a big impact report on, say, the state of women's health in Nasarawa State as an example, and media is just brought in at the end to disseminate that final piece of information. But that really shouldn't be so because media should be brought in as a co-designer. The example I will give is Women's Economic Agency, for example, right? So when we started that campaign, all well and good, awareness, you need to make your own money, you need to be in charge of your own money, you support women earning more than their husbands, you support women having their own bank accounts, yes, yes, yes. But this was one interesting question. When we asked, and this was both across both genders, when we asked, would you be fine if a woman is earning consistently more than her husband, we got about 60 or 70% of people saying they would be uncomfortable with that. And this was beyond both genders. So clearly, if we had just been targeting awareness, you should own your bank account, you should own this, you should own that from the start, because like I said, media is brought in at the end just to disseminate the information that you have. And so we're not exactly building what the people want to know. So that would have been a big issue. But because as the media, we were brought in from the beginning, so we were able to do the pre-survey before the campaign was even started, before the campaign, anything had been set to stone, before the information was even being rolled out. We're now able to challenge the conversation or channel the conversation to the right points. So my first thing would be when it comes to partnerships with public health experts, influencers, creators, etc., is to first of all co-create with the media. And the media doesn't have to be a grand jury of influencers or content creators. It could just be one key agency that you're working with that can help you really tailor the story or the narrative that you're going to tell. The second key one is to assign each partner their own comparative advantage. So when Rhoda spoke about people shaking their butts on the internet, that was really funny. But the truth is, she's right. You know, when it comes to media, the thing is, we have public health experts that are bringing in credibility and accuracy, that clinical credibility and accuracy, and that's great. Media organizations have the big reach, they have the cultural fluency, that's great. And then individual creators. What happens we see is that there's a lot of mismatch. So I want people who work with creators to always realize that in the online space, if you use a creator, you are renting their house for a few hours or a few days or a few weeks. So what that means is if your messaging doesn't already tie into the message that they are already selling, it's just going to be in the attention span of their audience for 1 or 2 days or the lifespan of till they post the next content. So what I'm trying to say with that is if a particular influencer already talks about, say, HPV or underage pregnancies or something that ties into the message, it is the right plug for you to tie it into. One example I'll also give was when we were working on Stop HPV, we used Dr. Adefunke. Dr. Adefunke is a public health expert and she debunks misinformation on the internet. And this message so resonated with her personally as an influencer that we gave her a budget of X amount and she did X times 10, the amount of content that we had already asked her to do. And that's because the messaging already related to her. Same with another influencer that we use who his own MO of, he's one of the biggest content creators in Nigeria, and his whole mission of his channel is to give back. So rather than saying, oh, you with your 10 million followers or whatever, begin to post HPV content, which is out of his scope. We rather use the scope of what he already does to influence the outcomes that we wanted. So rather than telling him to push out information about HPV, we had him take out a nurse who was a cervical cancer survivor. So that still passed the message, but it was still true to his own comparative advantage. And I think the second to the last thing I'll say is integrity, which is very, very key to us and the work we do. You see, when it comes to working with health, comes to health conversations, very serious conversations, you need to be as credible as possible. When we usually work on any of our health campaigns, and luckily we've done one with eHealth Africa as well, we try to be as accurate as possible. And that meant even reaching out to doctors, medical professionals, and asking for their inputs on certain things before we push them out. Dr. Charles said something about, can people trust even where they are going to for information or where they're even going to for tests or for treatment? For us in the digital space, providing a platform where people already trust that the message they're getting from here is accurate, is concise, is very, very important to us. So whoever is listening, whether you're in public health, media, etc., whatever messaging you put out, and even in the tone of voice, that it's as simple as that, truly, because the new generation, they're not just looking for, oh, you said that I can take a test. They're looking for the tone of voice in which you said it. They're looking for how exactly you said it. They're looking for it's a whole thing that you need to understand. So first things first, you have to make sure that you are putting out credible information and then in the formats that they enjoy. So while we're talking about formats, yes, you can go to the Shaking Bomb Bomb person, but I still feel like it's a bit tricky because you might not be able to get your message across in that way if you're only trying to jump on the trend or jump on the bandwagon. So you have to make sure that at the end of the day, you retain that integrity to the message that you're passing out. And the final one I would say is sustained relationships, because when it comes to these conversations of access and awareness, sometimes it comes in, like I said, the media comes in last, or it's a one-off. So this year we're focusing on girls who farm, as an example, girls in agriculture, women in agriculture. And then we do that for 2 weeks. The campaign is over till next 10 years where another person brings it up. But when you have those sustained conversations, even if it's once a year or twice a year or 3 times a year, you know that you have that continuity that people can always go back to. And a key thing is a repository of everything that you do. Working in media, one of the biggest lessons I've learned is Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, they are not repositories of information. Having your own platform that you have a repository of information is very, very important. And in whatever ways that you're doing, a key one also is YouTube. So we've done a couple of films, interestingly, because of the health messaging we're putting out for Stop HPV for Harm. And as that when we ended the campaign, the views on those movies were about 5 million, about 5 million, but now they've risen to about 7 million. And that's not because we were actively promoting it. That's because those are genuinely interesting movies. One was in Yoruba, one was in English with Omoni Oboli on her YouTube channel. It's just a genuinely interesting love romantic movie, which, I like romance. So I would watch it and watch it over and over again. So that is something that's very key, to have a very good repository of the work that you do.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And apologies, we've gone way over time, but I know if we keep talking about it, we'll actually be here for a longer period than we actually anticipated. We have so many questions, but I would want us to answer a question from Mohammed Nasser Aliyu. He said, what are the approaches that you can ensure that digital innovations not only reach but sustainably benefit women and children in rural and underserved settings? So I am throwing that to you, and then for Rhoda, you can actually answer, chime in. We just have 30 seconds for your responses before we go to Madam Otter for her closing remarks, please.
Was that thrown to me? Oh, okay. A key thing I would say is constantly give people messages in languages that they understand. So when you're trying to do a campaign for awareness or for access for, say, women in Kaduna or women in Ekiti, you can't give them a video that says, oh, you can't give them a structured video. You have to give them something that is potentially in Yoruba or it's a Hausa jingle. When we did some polls, we realized that a lot of people really listen to the radio in the eastern part of Nigeria. So we did run a jingle in Enugu. A key one I'll say is investment in measurement infrastructure, because that's the only way that we get to see the lapses that we have. So measuring exactly where the gaps are is very important, because that's the only way we can continue to build off from there, rather than saying, oh, we reached 10 million women in the north or in the south and we move on from there. But listening really to what their problem areas and gaps are will be very important for future planning and infrastructure and investment.
Yes, thank you so much. Ms. Rhoda?
Yes, just to chime in. I think for us, it's the one thing that we found is that we build all kind of technology for the same group of people. So whatever shoe fits, they are going to get adequate information about that thing. So currently, we're working with the Ogun State government on training rural women in creating or producing biochar and briquettes. So this like organic fuel that replace charcoal, because they burn longer and they don't emit smoke. And then it's a way to economically empower the women, since they are creating this from waste, and so that's zero startup cost, and then they can sell it at a profit at literally any price they want, right?
Okay.
One of the things that we are leveraging on is we are leveraging on their WhatsApp channels. We are leveraging on creating digital tools that they can use to train other women within their groups. We're leveraging on creating skits, short stories that can go on YouTube, that can go on Instagram stories, things that they can share. So we are literally doing everything and giving it to them and saying, which one works best for you?
Yes.
Now,
Yeah,
this
let them
one,
have choices, just like
exactly. And then we are doing both in English, we are doing both in Yoruba, we are translating it as well, so that it caters to more audiences. The next step that we're going to right now is that we're also including sign language in that in those communication, because it's all about inclusion when you are trying to change something. So if you have the resources, please and please use every means available to you to pass the same kind of information. A couple of years ago, we did the same thing, employing transmedia in training media people to speak out and report about safely report about sexual abuse, and also promoting the language of consent. So starting from using stories, using video, using newspaper, using anything that relates to media to pass the same kind of message, so that wherever you take it from, you're hearing the same thing. So I think that was 30 minutes plus 5.
I think it's actually up to a minute, but who's counting? So thank you very much, sincere panelists. It's a great pleasure. Now let's invite our Director of Partnerships and Programs, Madam Orta Higbe. Please, you have the floor, ma'am.
Thank you, Fatima, and thank you to Mary, Dr. Charles, and Rhoda. Thank you for a conversation that felt unusually honest. We came to talk about access, but this panel reminded us that access was never really the finish line, because a woman may have a phone and still not feel safe. She may receive the message and still not believe it was meant for her. She may know the service exists and still stay away because she's worried about shame, exposure, cost, complexity, or simply not being understood. Dr. Charles gave us a line I do not think I'll forget anytime soon. Young women asking whether there could be repercussions for using their phones to reach healthcare. And then another reality just as powerful. Women in Lagos driving across the city to one clinic simply because they trust their confidentiality there. So it's different women, different realities, same truth. Without dignity, safeguards, affordability, and choice, she will not come. Mary reminded us that reach is not the same thing as impact. We celebrate impressions and visibility, but sometimes the real measure of success is one woman silently deciding, yes, I will finally book that appointment. That is not just awareness. That is trust turning into action. And lastly, Rhoda brought us back to implementation reality. A beautiful digital platform means very little if the clinic she needs is not connected to it. Sometimes the simplest technology, the phone with a torch and radio, may be closer to her real life than the sophisticated solution we are most proud of building. And then the conversation moved even deeper, because trusted technology still cannot work in isolation. Dr. Charles again said something every sector needs to hear more often, and that is we have to collaborate rather than compete. And Rhoda reminded us how much valuable work never travels beyond the communities where it happens, because too little of it is documented, shared, published, or connected to learning. That matters a lot, because ecosystems do not fall only from lack of innovation. Sometimes from fragmentation, from duplication, from people building beside each other instead of with each other. And perhaps that is a real opportunity in front of us now. Not just building more digital tools, but building trusted ecosystems around them. Ecosystems where government, funders, implementers, media, innovators, community organizations, and private sector actors are actually learning from one another early enough to shape better outcomes together. And that is exactly why we're convening the Insights Learning Forum 2026 in Abuja on the 28th and 29th of July this month, not as another conference, but as a working room for people serious about moving these conversations into practical collaboration, partnership, investment, and implementation. The invitation is very simple. if your organization cares about trusted, inclusive, interoperable, and scalable health systems, especially for women and girls, and also if you as an individual cares about these things I've outlined, I would genuinely love for you to join us as a guest, as a partner, or as a sponsor, not just to attend, but to help shape what responsible, human-centered digital health can actually look like across Africa. If today's conversation resonated with you, send us a message today or this week. I think this is the kind of room we need more of right now, because the women and girls we keep speaking about deserve more than good intentions and beautiful language. They deserve systems they can trust. Thank you so much again to our esteemed panelists. Thank you, Fatima, for the moderation. And thank you for every one of you who joined us today. Take care and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you. Thank you. So as Madam Author mentioned, today's discussion is only the beginning. So let's meet at ILF 2026. Please feel free to contact us, and then we can secure your slot with our team, with Moshood and everyone on the comms team that actually made this happen, and the help desk. Please don't forget to follow us on our social media platforms, and you can actually pick up a form from there. Thank you so much again, and do have a wonderful day.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Thank you so much, everyone. We truly appreciate you. Thank you for joining us.